All right, looks like we're live. Welcome everyone for tuning into today's TezTalks Live. We have an exciting announcement in store today alongside with this episode. But before we get into everything, we have both myself, William McKenzie, and Kenneth Garofalo of Tesla's Commons as your host, and Klass Harrison of Tesla's Commons and the lead developer behind Kukai Wallet. Welcome, guys. How's
Thanks.
everyone's early afternoon or night? I think it's your night, Class.
Yeah, it's night here now, so it's getting dark here.
Good.
Doing well. A little bit of rain out there, I think even across the country down south too. So we're hanging in there, wishing for better days, but we're here in the now and we're excited for this episode.
Yeah, there's a little bit of rain here too where I'm based. But Kim, would you like to intro the giveaway we'll be doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So for everyone watching right now, we are doing a giveaway of a Ledger Nano S that's engraved with the Tezos logo. So this is quite cool. All you have to do is pay attention in this episode. Near the end, before we go into the demo, we're going to announce a keyword. And for all the audience listening, you'll take that keyword, you'll enter it into the YouTube chat, and then we'll have a Nightbot select at random one winner, and we'll have instructions for you to follow once we announce the winner. So again, pay attention, guys. We'll have that keyword announced right before the product demo here.
Yeah, be sure to pay attention for that. So let's go ahead and get into it. Class, would you mind telling the audience a bit about your background? Can you discuss kind of your education, work history, and just tell everyone a bit about yourself?
Sure. So I worked for Tesla's Commons for about a year, and I started with the Kukai wallet 2 years ago, right after Tesla's launched. So it has been an open source project since then. And I was an early community member in the Tesla's project. And my background is that I studied computer science with a master profile in secure systems. And before that, I was an engineer in the army, or the air defense, more to say. And yeah, that's my background. And before I got interested into Teslas, I was pretty much a Bitcoin maximalist.
Now that's interesting. So you have quite an impressive background. And hearing that you were previously a Bitcoin maximalist, I almost wonder what drew you into Tezos? What was the main factor that made you want to contribute to this ecosystem?
Yeah, it was actually when I read the white paper that I kind of started to reconsider that maximalistic view. And it was at the same time Bitcoin had some problems surrounding the governance, if you remember. It was just before it had a split. So it was primarily the governance model that was really interesting, because it solved a problem that Bitcoin obviously couldn't solve. And also the proof of stake was very interesting, because that's something that people had talked about for a lot of time, but few proof of stake projects were out at that time. And then also the formal verification, because that's obviously really important to have if you want to build smart contracts that should hold a lot of value. Then you need to prove different properties for these smart contracts.
Right. So all those three main points, the forkless, predictable governance aspect, the proof of stake aspect, and of course the formal verification within the smart contracts, very important. Those three main topics that we see a lot of people attracted into the Tezos ecosystem for. So that's some really great insight as to someone who was previously a Bitcoin maximalist. Now I'm sure you're a Tezos maximalist or close to it.
Yeah, exactly. And also, of course, the community were really important as well, because Tezos have always had a very active community, and you could see that during the fundraiser that a lot of people believed in this idea and contributed to making it a success. And I think it's really important to have that kind of network effect, because there's so many small blockchain projects out there. So network effect is really important as well.
Absolutely. And so we know you have a big announcement here regarding the Kukai wallet. And before we release that announcement, I guess, would you just give us a little bit of an intro to what is the Kukai wallet, maybe how long it has been around, and what significance it holds within the Tezos ecosystem?
Yeah, so Kukai have been around since in June 2018. So it was pretty fast after Tesla was launched. And it's a web wallet. And it have HD support and ledger support, and the new feature that maybe I shouldn't mention yet. Yeah.
Keeping people on their toes, we do have the announcement coming up. So Kukai was one of the original Tezos wallets that supported Tezos shortly after launch, and it has been a constant staple of a wallet supporting the ecosystem since then. And there's been constant upgrades and improvements. Something that I noticed most specifically is the UI has drastically improved since the beginning, and it's something that I find very easy to use, especially if there's any new users. I would definitely recommend they try Kukai because of how friendly it is for the user. And maybe that's a good segue into the grand announcement that we have today. So go for it, Klass.
Yeah. So we are launching today, and it's launched right now, actually, on direct auth integration into the Kukai wallet. And that's a distributed key management system. And what it means for the users is that they can now, in a simple way, with just one click, log into Kukai with their OAuth account. For example, a Google account, a Reddit account, or a Twitter account. And then they will already have a wallet set up for them. And you can also, for example, send Tezos to a Google account or a Reddit account without them having to do anything before, because the direct auth integration uses the Taurus network that generate the keys in a distributed way. So you have distributed key generation. So that's a really cool feature. And about the Taurus network is basically a blockchain agnostic network, and it's a distributed network with different large ecosystem stakeholders, like for example, Binance run one node, and other large players run a node as well. So you have, I think it's around 17 nodes right now that's running the network.
Yeah, so in regards to OAuth, that's a really neat feature, and especially for onboarding new users. You mentioned that you can only use this for Google, Reddit, or Twitter. Why can't you use something like Facebook or Instagram, for example?
That's a good question. Right now, we launch it with support for Google, Twitter, and Reddit. But obviously, we can extend it to include more login options, and we can. We kind of want to get feedback from users, so we know how to prioritize there. But it's possible to also add support for GitHub and Discord and a lot of other OAuth logins.
Wow,
And maybe something that's interesting to mention is how the login work over OAuth. So basically, when you log in with, for example, Reddit, it uses the OAuth login, and so you connect and authenticate through your Reddit account, and you get a token in response, and you then send that token to the Taurus network as a proof that you have logged in with your username. And then every node in the network respond with a share. So you send this token to all 17 nodes, and they respond with a share. And then you can, from that, reconstruct the private key on the client side. So the only one that sees the private key in the end is you as a user.
So this is kind of groundbreaking announcement here, where users can now onboard themselves without having to remember, a large string of letters and numbers for their public key. Well, their Twitter account now becomes a wallet, a Tezos wallet, a public key representation. Yeah. And users can send from, one Twitter account to another. There's a caveat though. If you're not already following the person on Twitter, they must have DMs enabled. Do you want to talk a little bit, Klass, about the process of, we'll demo this later for everyone interested in seeing it actually in action. So it might be simpler to understand once it's demoed, but Klass, if you want to give a little bit of explanation on how the process works from a user perspective.
Yeah, regarding the limitations, there isn't really a limitation. You can send to anyone, any Twitter handle. The limitations there with Twitter is that we offer the user, when they have sent the Tezos to someone on Twitter, you can send a notification to them. So we have provide the user with a link they can click on, and that will follow a URI link that will open up Twitter for you and prepare a message that you can send. So, but if you're sending to someone you know on Twitter, then they probably don't have you blocked or anything like that.
Right. They make sure you're not blocked by anyone before you start sending them some Tezos via this method. So quite interesting. So for everyone watching in the audience, if you had a friend that maybe wasn't technically savvy enough to start using Tezos, this is a good way for you to get them onboarded. Send them some Tez via the Twitter method, via the Google email method, or via Reddit, and see if they're able to click that link, authorize the account, and access their Tezos wallet containing the XTZ. Quite cool. And I can't wait for the kind of numbers that come back to see how many people are using this and what kind of community feedback is generated from this. So we really love this, and we think it's going to onboard a lot more users into the ecosystem. And it's just going to be one of the many things that will help this ecosystem grow going forward. So I know you went into it a little bit, the Taurus network. Maybe just some more clarification on what the limitations of the Taurus network are. And you did say that GitHub, and I believe there is Discord as well, would possibly be on your roadmap for integration in the future, but no Facebook, no Instagram to this point, right?
That's true. Facebook and GitHub is probably the first we have in mind there as to extend it with first. And regarding the Taurus network, it's not really, it doesn't have its own blockchains since it's a blockchain agnostic. So it's kind of a permissioned network of 17 trusted stakeholders within the blockchain world. And the reason it's permissioned in that way is to protect against the Sybil attacks. So it's very thought out that way. And you also have protection against front-running attacks that could be another potential problem.
So another important thing to note is there will be a message that appears when a user attempts to send over 50 XTZ using this method. And it's just to alert them that possibly this isn't the best way to transfer large value transactions, because the security of the wallet is tied to the security of your Twitter or of your Gmail or of your Reddit account. So not saying that it's not safe, but let's say your Twitter account was compromised, and then theoretically the wallet could be compromised. So ultimately, your goal is to drive users to start using the XTZ, start sending it back and forth, and getting them to learn more about, the privacy concerns and the ability to onboard them going down the future into the ledger and using the ledger Nano S, say, to store the asset itself. So this is awesome. I really like this idea of the product. And I think we have a question from the audience. Will, if you want to go ahead.
Can I follow up on that regarding the security? The reason we warn when someone sends over 50 tests is that we want them to really double check that they have the spelling correct, because when you send Tezos to a regular Tezos address, you have a built-in checksum there. So it will detect if, for example, you have one character wrong. But when you send to, let's say, a Reddit account, you can't have any spelling mistakes. If you have one character wrong, it will go to the wrong user. So if you do larger transaction, you need to make sure that there's no spelling mistakes there.
Yeah, so going back to that question from the audience, Klass, could you give some input on this? Someone asked, don't you fear that this could be used to scam people?
I'm not sure how it would be used to scam people. It's a pretty, there's no risk for phishing attacks, for example, because if someone set up a phishing site, it won't resolve the same key. So because it's tied to Kukai in this case. So do you have some more context on how people would scam?
Right. I think it's just, people could use anything to scam. And, this is just a piece of technology, and we can't really say that this is going to be used for a scam purpose. So always keep that in the back of your mind where, this is out there. Be aware of the technology, be aware of how it's used. And I think this is actually a good segue into the demo, so the audience can actually see how the product is used, and they can see for themselves what kind of message occurs within a social profile when some Tez is sent to them. So I will give the keyword right now. And just to let everyone know, we are running on a limited time frame today. So the keyword we'll be giving now, and we're kind of going to go fast through the demo. So bear with us. And the keyword for the giveaway is Kukai tacos. And that is a capital K, capital T. So capital K, U, K, A, I, capital T, ACOS. So please enter that keyword in the YouTube chat right now for your chance to win this Ledger Nano S. Thank you, guys. And Klass, if you want to go ahead with that demo.
Sure. Okay. So this is the new feature, direct auth. And you simply click here, and then you select what login option you want to use. We can go with Google here, and then you will have to select which Google account you want to use. And then you're logged in. And then, for example, if you want to send to someone, let's say you want to send on to someone on Reddit, you select Reddit and enter the username and then an amount. And then you see that it will look up the address to that Reddit user. So you just proceed. And then you can double check so you have the spelling correct. And then you verify it and just confirm. Then you will have to authenticate again over OAuth. And then it's sent.
Wow, that's simple. So you had to authenticate the account, but then you just entered the username in this example for Reddit, and then it confirmed that there was an XTZ address associated with that username. Now, is that something that will appear when it's the first time you're sending, or is this only something that will appear on the second time or after?
You mean the notification in the corner?
The XTZ address that appeared on the bottom of the username.
It will always appear. So you will always be able to see the address if you, for example, want to double check with the receiver. Is this really your address?
Okay.
And then we can log in on Reddit to look at that. Then you do the same, just accept over OAuth. Then it will resolve your private key and log you in. And you can see that we received one test.
Very cool. This is so simple compared to, downloading private keys, onboarding with a new public key and trying to remember what that public key is. It just simplifies the process for bringing in new users. And maybe this is a good time to show the Twitter. And then I can switch to my screen and show how it is on the receiving end as well.
Sure. And it's primarily onboarding new users we have in mind for this. But I can also see it being used, for example, if you want to play around with different dApps or tokens. So maybe you use it in combination with, I assume most people probably have their primarily wallet on as a ledger wallet. And then you can use this as something to play around with dApps and tokens. Let's see your Twitter handle there.
And just to remind the audience, the way to get in contact with Kukai would be on Twitter. They have a account, a username, Kukai Wallet. And on Telegram, it's t.me/Kukai Wallet. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Yeah. And then you can, for example, click here if you want to notify the recipient, and then it will open up a message that you can either just send away or maybe add something else here. And now you should have received 5 tests. Maybe it's enough for a pizza in Boston. I don't know.
Maybe it is. Maybe it is. Let's take a look and see if I have that here on my end. So I basically am going to share my screen now. If the Zoom meeting cuts out, guys, no worry. Again, you can follow up with Kukai at Kukai Wallet on Twitter or t.me/Kukai Wallet on Telegram.